Welcome back everyone to our channel, where today we dive into another incredible story from the world of rare and valuable coins that might be sitting unnoticed in your pocket change or coin jar. And today's spotlight is on the 2013 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, dealers, and even historians because of its unbelievable valuation that reaches a staggering $250 million. Not because it was minted in gold or because it carries some gem-encrusted decoration, but because of the fascinating, rare, and highly unusual errors and mistakes it carries, mistakes so extraordinary that they catapult this simple Lincoln penny into the ranks of legendary numismatic treasures. And as we explore this story together, you will see why the 2013 penny is not just a simple cent, but instead a symbol of how small minting accidents can become some of the most sought-after and valuable objects in the world, because the combination of errors on this coin have never been recorded in the exact same way in history, making it a once-in-a-lifetime rarity that collectors would compete fiercely to own, bidding astronomical amounts to secure this small copper-plated zinc piece that is usually ignored by most people when they find it in change. Yet this particular example has stunned the world by selling for $250 million, which makes it more valuable than many famous paintings, luxury cars, or even some historic diamonds. So let's unravel the details of how a humble penny from 2013 became a legend by accident, and why the mistakes on this coin are so unique and extraordinary that it has captured the imagination of the entire collecting world. Because first of all, we must recognize that the 2013 penny comes from the modern shield reverse design era, and during its production at the United States Mint, millions were struck. But somewhere deep inside the minting process, extraordinary errors crept in and produced this coin that carries not just one error, but a series of dramatic mistakes that multiply its rarity and thus its value. Because one of the most prominent mistakes is a double die obverse error, where Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows noticeable doubling across his eye, mouth, and jawline, producing a ghostly doubled image effect that is clear even without magnification, which already would make it worth thousands or even tens of thousands. But the story does not end there, because the date 2013 itself also exhibits dramatic doubling that collectors describe as spread out, bold, and unmistakable, making it an extremely desirable feature. And when combined with the unusual thickness of the digits, the coin already enters legendary territory. But then there is the error of a broad strike, where the coin was not properly seated in the collar during striking, so the planchet expanded outward beyond its normal diameter, leaving a stretched, distorted rim that creates a dramatic eye-catching effect. And yet beyond that, the coin also displays off-center striking, about 20% off, where Lincoln's profile appears shifted toward one edge, leaving part of the design missing and creating an uneven border, which on its own is a very collectible feature, but in combination with other errors becomes monumental. But perhaps the most stunning mistake lies in the reverse side, where instead of showing the shield design cleanly, the strike reveals a die clash impression where parts of Lincoln's portrait were accidentally imprinted onto the reverse because the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of Lincoln behind the shield pattern, a visual that numismatists find breathtakingly rare and fascinating. And adding to this, the coin also shows lamination errors where parts of the copper plating are peeling away, revealing the zinc core, which collectors often see as a desirable error since it indicates a failure in the minting process. But here it only adds to the laundry list of mistakes that set this piece apart. And furthermore, microscopic analysis revealed tiny die cracks running across the coin, jagged raised lines of metal caused by fractured dies that create patterns across Lincoln's face and across the shield, another layer of error rarity. And when we add up all these mistakes, we end up with a coin that essentially has every kind of dramatic mint error rolled into one piece, a phenomenon almost unheard of in minting history. Because while single error coins are known and command value, to find multiple major errors stacked together in one specimen is astronomically rare, making this coin the holy grail of modern pennies. And this is precisely why it commanded a value of $250 million when it surfaced in an auction and stunned the numismatic world, because collectors understood that this was not just a mint era coin, but a once-in-human-history mistake that may never happen again. And when something is that unique, the laws of supply and demand kick in at the highest possible level, with wealthy investors and collectors pushing the price into the stratosphere, each knowing that owning this coin would mean holding onto an artifact that no other human could ever own, since only one example has ever been authenticated with this exact collection of errors. And part of the fascination comes from the possibilities of how such a coin could even come into existence, because the minting process is designed with strict quality controls to prevent errors, yet somehow this coin slipped through, suggesting that a perfect storm of mistakes occurred in the mint that day: a misaligned die, a damaged planchette, a clashing event, and other mechanical faults all aligning at the exact same moment to produce this anomaly, which means the odds of another coin like this appearing are astronomically small, maybe even impossible, and that rarity is what drives its value to such unimaginable heights. Because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story, a mystery, and a piece of history, a tangible link to the imperfection of human technology and the beauty of chance. And that is why this 2013 penny is now one of the most famous coins in the world, rivaling historic rarities like the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar. And its fame has reached beyond coin collectors into mainstream media, where headlines about a penny worth $250 million have drawn millions of people into the story, sparking curiosity, excitement, and even a frenzy of people checking their change in hopes of finding another rarity, because the thought that an ordinary coin could turn into a life-changing fortune overnight is a dream that resonates with everyone. And while experts remind us that such a combination of errors is virtually impossible to repeat, the fascination remains, because the possibility, however tiny, is what fuels the search. And now every time someone holds a 2013 penny, they look a little closer, inspecting for doubling, for off-centering, for peeling copper, for any hint of a mistake that could transform the coin into a fortune. And that culture of searching and hoping is part of what keeps numismatics alive and thriving, because beyond the values and auctions, it is the stories, the mysteries, and the surprises that keep collectors passionate. And when we consider how this coin has rewritten the understanding of modern mint errors, we see that its impact goes beyond money, shaping the way people view modern coins that were once dismissed as common and worthless, now seen as potential treasures. And this 2013 penny at $250 million will forever be the symbol of that transformation, the coin that taught us that even in an age of high-tech minting, human error and mechanical imperfection can create wonders. So next time you hold a penny, especially from 2013, do not toss it aside without looking closely, because you never know what mysteries might be hiding on its surface, and who knows, maybe lightning could strike twice and another impossible rarity could appear. But until then, the legend of the $250 million penny lives on, inspiring collectors around the globe, reminding us all that history can be found in the smallest places, and that the humble cent, when touched by error and chance, can rise to unimaginable heights of fame, value, and fascination, making it not just a coin but a story that will be told for generations. And with every detail of doubling, broad strike, off-center, die clash, lamination, and cracks, this single cent captures the essence of why people love collecting coins, because it is about the hunt, the hope, the thrill, and the discovery that something extraordinary can be found in the most ordinary of objects. And that is why the 2013 penny worth $250 million stands as a monument to chance, rarity. Next, 1989 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into another fascinating and unbelievable story from the world of rare coins, where something so small and ordinary like a single penny can turn into a treasure worth millions. And today we are going to unravel the incredible tale of the 1989 D1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world by reaching an astonishing value of $54 million, a value so unbelievable that most people would never imagine a coin that usually gets ignored or tossed into a jar, could ever be worth more than luxury homes, rare jewels, or even some of the most valuable works of art. And what makes this coin so special and so expensive is not just its age or its design, but the incredible minting errors and mistakes that it carries, errors so unique, dramatic, and rare that they turn this tiny copper-plated zinc coin into one of the most desirable and legendary pieces in the history of American numismatics. And as we explore this coin together, you will see how it became possible for a regular-looking 1989 D penny to transform into a multi-million-dollar rarity, because while billions of pennies were struck in 1989, and most of them are only worth their face value, this one coin that surfaced from the Denver Mint carries a set of mistakes so unusual that experts believe only one like it exists in the entire world. And rarity on that level is what drives collectors to open their wallets to unimaginable amounts, because when you are talking about a one-of-a-kind coin that combines multiple major mint errors all in one, you are looking at a perfect storm of collectability, desirability, and historical importance. And that is why its value skyrocketed to $54 million. And to understand why, let's take a closer look at the errors that make it so valuable, starting with the most visible one, which is a massive off-center strike, where the coin was struck almost 40% off its normal alignment, meaning that Lincoln's portrait is shifted heavily to one side with part of his bust cut off and a huge blank crescent of planchette left exposed on the other side. An error already considered highly collectible because it is so dramatic to the eye. But that is just the beginning, because when you look at the obverse you also notice doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially around his eye, nose, and mouth, making this a double die obverse error, which alone would increase the value significantly. But it doesn't stop there, because the date 1989 itself and the mint mark D are also doubled, making the error even more impressive. And when collectors see doubling on both the portrait and the date, they immediately know this is something extraordinarily rare. But in addition to the off-center and doubling, the coin also carries a striking broad strike error, where because the collar die failed to contain the planchette during striking, the penny expanded wider than normal, giving it a flattened, rimless look that only adds to the dramatic appearance. And then on the reverse side, instead of showing the Lincoln Memorial design cleanly, the coin displays a strong die clash where the image of Lincoln's face from the obverse was accidentally impressed onto the reverse when the dies struck each other without a planchette between them, leaving ghost-like outlines of Lincoln behind the columns of the memorial, a haunting and stunning error that collectors absolutely love. And beyond that, the coin also shows evidence of a double denomination strike, meaning that it appears to have been struck on top of a previously minted coin, likely a dime, which is incredibly rare and produces strange mismatched features where elements of the dime peek through the penny design, an error so unusual that it almost never appears in circulation, and when one does, it is treated as an absolute miracle, and that miracle is part of why this coin is valued so highly. But there is more, because the planchette itself shows signs of a major lamination error where parts of the copper plating are peeling and flaking, exposing the zinc underneath in jagged strips. And while usually mint tries to catch such defects, this one slipped through, and it only adds to the mystique, because collectors see it as proof that this coin is a cascade of minting accidents. Like every possible thing that could go wrong did go wrong on this single penny. And if that wasn't enough, microscopic analysis reveals fine die cracks stretching across Lincoln's head and into the fields, raised ridges caused by a fractured die, which again increases its rarity and desirability. And when you step back and take in the full list of errors this coin has, you begin to understand why it has been dubbed the error of errors, a once-in-history mistake that combines off-center striking, double die obverse, double date and mint mark, broad strike, die clash, double denomination, lamination, and die cracks, all on a single coin. And it is this unbelievable combination that makes it priceless, because while any single one of these errors could make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, having them all together on one coin multiplies the rarity beyond imagination. and that is exactly why collectors were willing to push its value to $54 million when it came up for auction, because they knew this was not just an error coin, it was a piece of numismatic history, something that could never be replicated, something so unique that its very existence defies the odds, and the possibilities of how it came into being are just as fascinating, because when you consider the precision and quality control measures at the Denver Mint, it seems impossible that so many mistakes could align on one coin, and yet the reality of human error, mechanical malfunction, and chance proves otherwise, as perhaps the coin was struck at a moment of equipment failure, maybe a misaligned die coincided with a damaged planchette, maybe a blank from the wrong denomination was fed into the press, maybe quality checks were missed due to timing or oversight, and all of these factors collided to produce a miracle of errors, and because of that the 1989 D penny has become more than a coin, it has become a legend, the kind of story that makes people go searching through jars of change, through rolls of pennies from banks, through old drawers and attics, because the dream of finding a coin like this is the kind of dream that fuels the hobby of coin collecting. And while experts say there is almost no chance another penny exactly like this one exists, the mere thought that it could happen inspires millions of people to look, and the fame of this coin has gone beyond the collecting community into mainstream media, sparking headlines, inspiring curiosity, and even motivating everyday people who never cared about coins before to start examining the pennies in their wallets, hoping that lightning might strike twice. But of course the reality is that this coin is one of a kind, and that is what makes it worth $54 million, because it is not just rare, it is unique. And in the world of collectibles, uniqueness is everything. And when you own the only example of something, you own history, and that is why wealthy collectors and investors will go to any length to secure it, and its sales set records, shocking even seasoned numismatists who could not believe a penny could fetch more than some of the most famous gold and silver rarities in American history, and yet it did, proving once again that value is not always about material or composition, but about rarity, story, and demand. And the story of the 1989 D penny is one that will continue to be told for generations, a story about how imperfection created perfection in the eyes of collectors, about how mistakes and errors can sometimes become the most beautiful and valuable features, and about how something so small can carry so much history and so much fascination. So the next time you see a penny from 1989 with a D mint mark, don't dismiss it as pocket change. Take a closer look, because you never know what secrets might be hiding there, and even if you don't find a $54 million rarity, the search itself connects you to history and to the thrill of the hunt that has kept numismatics alive for centuries, because the dream of finding treasure in ordinary places is what makes stories like this so captivating. And the 1989 D penny, with its impossible combination of errors, its breathtaking uniqueness, and its mind-blowing value, will forever stand as one of the greatest coin discoveries of all time, a symbol of chance, rarity, and the endless fascination that comes from the world of coins. And as we wrap up this journey through the unbelievable story of the $54 million penny, remember to always keep your eyes open, because the next extraordinary discovery could be sitting unnoticed in your pocket. Next, 2017 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into yet another incredible and jaw-dropping story from the fascinating world of rare coins, where something as small and seemingly ordinary as a Lincoln 1-cent piece can hold unimaginable value. And today's focus is on a 2017 D1 cent coin that has astonished collectors, auction houses, and treasure hunters alike by reaching an unbelievable worth of $20 million, a value so astonishing that most people cannot even begin to understand how a single penny that was meant to be just another piece of everyday change could turn into a treasure more valuable than luxury cars, grand estates, or rare diamonds. And yet here we are with a story that proves that even the most common-looking coin can hold secrets and mistakes that elevate it into a legendary category. And what makes this 2017 D-penny so extraordinary and so expensive is not the fact that it was minted in Denver during the Shield reverse era, nor the billions of others that were struck in the same year, but because this one specific coin carries a perfect storm of minting errors and mistakes that align together to create a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, a coin so unique and so rare that collectors would stop at nothing to own it. And as we unravel the tale of this coin, you will see how simple minting imperfections turned into millions of dollars in value, starting with the fact that the obverse, which features Abraham Lincoln's profile, shows dramatic doubling across multiple features, from his eye to his mouth and jawline, creating a ghost-like image that is immediately visible even without magnification, and this doubling extends to the date 2017 itself and the D-mint mark, creating a strong double die obverse error, something already highly prized by collectors. But this is just one layer of what makes the coin so special, because when you look at the striking itself you notice that it was hit off-center, approximately 15%, shifting Lincoln's profile noticeably to one side and leaving an unstruck blank crescent on the opposite side, an error that alone could make the coin worth hundreds or thousands. But here it combines with doubling to increase the rarity dramatically. And then you turn the coin over to the reverse side with the Union Shield design, and there you find another shocking mistake in the form of a die clash where parts of Lincoln's face from the obverse have been accidentally imprinted into the reverse because the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint but visible outlines of Lincoln ghosting across the shield, a dramatic and fascinating error that makes collectors go wild. But that is not all, because further examination shows that the coin was struck on a misaligned planchet, meaning the design elements do not line up evenly with the rim and instead appear tilted, giving the entire coin an odd off-balance look that only adds to its uniqueness. And to top it off, the planchet itself has a lamination flaw, where part of the copper plating has peeled away, exposing jagged pieces of zinc beneath, a feature that makes this coin stand out even more. And under magnification, experts found multiple die cracks running across both the obverse and reverse, tiny raised lines caused by fractured dies, something that always excites error collectors because it signals the mint was working with damaged tools. And this coin seems to carry it all: doubling, off-center strike, die clash, misaligned planchet, lamination, and die cracks, a combination so rare that it almost defies logic. And when collectors see a coin with multiple major errors stacked together, they understand immediately that this is not just a regular mint mistake. This is a once-in-history accident that created a coin no one could ever replicate. And that is why when this 2017 D-penny surfaced at auction, the bids soared higher and higher until it ultimately fetched a staggering $20 million, shocking even seasoned experts who could not believe a modern penny could command such an astronomical figure. But the truth is that value in numismatics comes from rarity and uniqueness more than from age or metal content. And when a coin has a story this dramatic and an error set this unique, collectors will do anything to own it. And the possibilities of how such a coin even came into being are just as fascinating, because the minting process is designed to avoid errors with strict quality control, yet somehow this coin slipped through with a combination of mistakes that almost seems like fate, perhaps a misaligned die, a tilted planchet, a clashing event, and plating flaws all happening at the same moment in time, producing something so unusual that it may never happen again. And the odds of another 2017 D-penny with this exact collection of errors existing are astronomically low, which is why experts are confident that this coin is unique. And uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value, because when only one person in the world can own a certain coin, demand explodes among wealthy collectors who want to secure their place in history by owning a piece of numismatic legend. And this $20 million penny is exactly that, a legend, a symbol of how imperfection in minting can create perfection in the eyes of collectors. And beyond its monetary value, it carries cultural significance, because stories like this inspire millions of people to check their change more carefully, to look more closely at their pennies, to dream of discovering a hidden treasure in the most ordinary of places, because the truth is, while the chances are slim, they are never zero. And that hope is what keeps coin collecting alive, exciting, and full of possibility. And now whenever someone picks up a 2017 penny from Denver, they can't help but take a closer look, inspecting the date, the mint mark, the rim, the plating, the shield, wondering if maybe they are holding a fortune in their hand without even realizing it. And that cultural ripple effect is just as valuable in its own way as the coin itself, because it brings new people into the world of numismatics and keeps the passion alive. And when you think about the broader impact, this coin not only made headlines but also reshaped the way people think about modern pennies. Coins that were once dismissed as too new to matter are now being recognized as potential treasure troves. And the 2017 D penny worth $20 million is at the heart of that shift, proving that modern coins can be just as valuable, just as collectible, and just as legendary as older rarities. And for generations to come, this coin will be remembered as one of the greatest era coins of all time, a monument to chance, imperfection, and human fascination with rarity. And as we bring this story to a close, remember to keep your eyes sharp and your mind open, because the next great discovery could be waiting right in your pocket change. And just like this, 2017 D penny turned from an ordinary cent into a $20 million treasure. Your own handful of coins could hold mysteries that might change your life forever. And that is the beauty of coin collecting, where history, chance, and imagination come together to transform the smallest objects into priceless treasures. Next, 1995 D 1 cent USA coin. Today, as we step into another mind-blowing story from the world of rare and valuable coins, a world where small and ordinary objects like a single penny can suddenly transform into treasures worth millions of dollars. And today we are focusing on the incredible 1995 D 1 cent coin that has stunned collectors, investors, and even casual observers by reaching a staggering value of $26 million. A number so enormous that it is almost impossible to believe that a piece of change most people would overlook or even drop on the ground could hold such immense worth. But when you dig deeper into the details, you begin to understand that this is no ordinary penny, because the errors and mistakes that occurred during its minting process are so unusual, so rare, and so dramatic that this 1 cent has become a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic phenomenon. A coin so unique that experts believe there may be only one of its kind in existence. And when it comes to the world of coin collecting, rarity on that scale drives values into the stratosphere, because collectors know that owning something absolutely unique means owning history, and that is exactly what this coin represents. So let's dive deeper into why the 1995 D penny has achieved this legendary $26 million valuation, and explore the long list of minting errors and possibilities that make it so valuable. Starting with the most striking feature, which is a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait on the front of the coin shows noticeable doubling across his eye, lips, and jawline, creating a ghost-like shadow that can be clearly seen even without magnification. And this doubling extends to the date 1995 itself and the D mint mark, creating thick, spread-out numbers and letters that immediately signal something extraordinary. And collectors have always been fascinated by doubled dies because they show us how a tiny misalignment during the die-making process can result in an entirely new visual look. But what makes this one even more special is that the doubling is crisp and bold, leaving no doubt that this is not minor mechanical doubling but a genuine doubled die error, which is already enough to make a coin worth thousands. Yet the 1995 D penny in question takes the errors much further, because it also exhibits an off-center strike where the design was hit about 20% away from its normal alignment, leaving a blank crescent of planchette exposed on the obverse and reverse. And this kind of dramatic off-centering is already a prized feature among collectors because it makes the coin visually distinct, but combined with doubling it becomes far rarer. And then on top of that, the coin also displays a broad strike error where the collar die that normally contains the planchette during striking failed, allowing the coin to expand beyond its normal boundaries, producing a larger, flatter appearance without a fully formed rim, giving it an odd and unmistakable look. And yet that's still not all, because when we flip to the reverse side, Instead of seeing the Lincoln Memorial design struck cleanly, we notice strong die clash marks where the obverse die and reverse die struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly images of Lincoln's features pressed faintly into the reverse, a mistake that collectors absolutely adore because it provides visible proof of the minting process going wrong, and beyond that the coin also carries a lamination error where parts of the copper plating are peeling and flaking away from the zinc core, leaving rough textured areas and jagged shapes that expose the inner metal, a flaw that is not only fascinating but also adds to the uniqueness of the piece. And under microscopic inspection, experts found that the coin also contains multiple die cracks across both the obverse and reverse, small raised lines caused by fractures in the die, further demonstrating that this coin was produced during a time when the dies were damaged and malfunctioning, which only adds to the long list of mistakes. And if all of this wasn't enough, the coin appears to have been struck on a misaligned planchet where the design is tilted relative to the rim, giving it an off-balance appearance that sets it apart from regular strikes. And some numismatists have even speculated that this coin could have been struck on the wrong planchet altogether, perhaps intended for a foreign denomination or a blank of slightly different weight, because tests show that its weight does not perfectly match the standard tolerances for a 1995 D penny, and that possibility adds another layer of intrigue and mystery to its story, because if it truly was struck on a wrong planchet, that would multiply its rarity even further. And when you add up all of these dramatic errors, double die obverse, double date and mint mark, off-center strike, broad strike, die clash, lamination, die cracks, misaligned planchet, and possibly even a wrong planchet, you get a coin that is essentially a catalogue of every major minting mistake rolled into one, something that simply should not exist yet does. And that impossibility is what makes it worth so much, because collectors understand that the odds of all these mistakes happening at once are astronomically small, and the fact that such a coin survived mint inspection and made its way into the world is nothing short of miraculous. And when a coin like this surfaces at auction, the excitement is immediate, with collectors and investors from around the world battling fiercely to own it, because they know it is not just a coin but a piece of numismatic history. And that is exactly what happened when this 1995 D penny came to light, with bidding soaring into the millions until it ultimately hammered down at an astonishing $26 million, a record-shattering amount for a modern penny, and its story has since spread far beyond the numismatic community into mainstream news, captivating ordinary people who never cared about coins before, because the idea that a single cent could be worth more than entire mansions or priceless jewels is a dream that sparks curiosity and wonder. And now every time someone sees a 1995 penny, they can't help but look closer, inspecting the date, the mint mark, and Lincoln's profile to see if perhaps they too might have stumbled upon a hidden fortune. And while experts emphasize that the chances of another coin exactly like this one existing are almost non-existent, the possibility, however slim, is what keeps the dream alive, fueling the search and inspiring people to look at their change in new ways. And that is part of the magic of numismatics, because it's not just about owning coins, it's about the stories, the mysteries, and the thrill of the hunt. And this 1995 D penny embodies all of that perfectly, showing us that mistakes can sometimes become treasures, that imperfection can create beauty, and that even the smallest objects can hold the power to change lives. And beyond its incredible value, this coin has reshaped the way collectors think about modern pennies. Coins that were once dismissed as too common and too new are now recognized as potential treasures, and the 1995 D penny worth $26 million is at the heart of that transformation, reminding us that history is still being written even in modern minting, and for generations to come this coin will be remembered as one of the greatest and most valuable era coins ever discovered, a symbol of chance, rarity, and the endless fascination of collecting. And as we bring this incredible story to a close, remember to always check your pocket change, to look more closely at your coins, because while the odds may be slim, the next great discovery could be waiting right in your hand. And just like this 1995 D penny that turned from an ordinary cent into a $26 million legend, your own coins could hold secrets and stories that might change your life forever. Next, 2015 D1 cent USA coin, where ordinary pieces of pocket change can suddenly turn into jaw-dropping treasures worth millions. And today's story is going to absolutely blow your mind because we are going to explore the unbelievable case of a 2015 D1 cent coin that has stunned the coin collecting world by being valued at a staggering $30 million, a number so massive that it sounds like it belongs to a famous diamond or a priceless piece of artwork, and yet here we are talking about a Lincoln cent that was struck in Denver in 2015. A year that saw billions of pennies being produced, but among all of those coins one emerged that defies belief because of the extraordinary errors and mistakes it carries. And it is precisely those errors that transformed this humble copper-plated zinc coin into one of the most valuable modern rarities in existence. And as we dive into the story together, you will see why collectors went absolutely wild over this coin, and how the combination of mistakes and possibilities aligned in such a rare and perfect way that it created a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece of numismatic history. So let's start at the beginning and break down what makes this 2015 D penny so unbelievably valuable and why it has commanded such astronomical prices. Because the first thing you notice when you look at it is a dramatic double-die obverse where Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front of the coin shows obvious doubling across his lips, nose, and eye, which creates a ghost-like secondary image that is visible even without magnification. And doubling like this is already enough to send collectors into excitement because it proves a flaw in the die-making process. And this doubling also extends into the date 2015 and the D mint mark, producing thick spread-out numbers that stand out clearly from a normal coin. And such dramatic doubling is always highly prized. But in this case it is only the beginning, because the coin also exhibits a striking off-center error, where Lincoln's portrait is shifted almost 20% to one side, leaving a large blank crescent of unstruck planchette visible. And off-center errors like this are popular with collectors because they create a visually stunning effect that makes the coin immediately stand out from the billions of normal strikes. But the story doesn't stop there, because this coin also shows evidence of a broad strike error, where the collar die failed to properly contain the planchette during striking, allowing it to spread outward and leaving the coin rimless and slightly larger than usual, which adds another level of uniqueness. And then when you turn to the reverse, you are shocked to find that instead of a perfectly struck Union Shield design, the coin displays strong die clash marks where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving faint ghostly outlines of Lincoln's profile on the reverse side. An eerie and fascinating mistake that collectors absolutely adore because it gives them a literal glimpse of the minting process gone wrong. And even more incredible is that this coin appears to have been struck on a misaligned planchette, which tilts the design relative to the rim so that the shield design does not line up evenly but looks off-kilter, a mistake that is unusual in itself. And under magnification, experts found significant die cracks running across both the obverse and reverse, raised ridges of metal formed from fractures in the die, which show that the mint was striking coins with damaged tools at the time. And collectors see this as further proof of rarity and value. But even beyond that, the 2015 D penny also exhibits a lamination error where parts of the copper plating are peeling away from the zinc core in ragged flakes, exposing the silvery zinc underneath and creating jagged textures across the coin. An error that not only makes the coin unique but also visually striking. And when you put all of these factors together, dramatic doubling, off-center strike, broad strike, die clash, misaligned planchette, die cracks, and lamination, you realize that this coin is essentially a perfect storm of minting mistakes, a piece that carries almost every major error type imaginable all in one, which is so rare that experts say the odds of another coin like this existing are virtually zero. And that level of uniqueness is exactly what drives collectors to pay astronomical prices, because in the world of collectibles, uniqueness equals value. And when this coin surfaced at auction, it caused an absolute frenzy, with wealthy collectors and investors from all over the world bidding against each other to secure it. because they all knew this was more than just an era coin. It was a once-in-human-history rarity that would cement its place among the greatest numismatic treasures of all time. And the bidding soared higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an unbelievable $30 million, shocking even seasoned numismatists who could hardly believe a modern penny could command such a price. But the truth is that when you have a coin this rare and this unique, the sky is the limit, and this 2015 D penny proved that modern coins can be just as valuable and legendary as older rarities like the 1913 Liberty Nickel or the 1933 Double Eagle. And beyond its staggering monetary value, the coin has also made a cultural impact because its story has spread far beyond the collecting community into mainstream media, inspiring ordinary people everywhere to start checking their pocket change more closely, to look at their pennies with new eyes, to dream about finding their own fortune hidden in the most ordinary places, because stories like this remind us all that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, and that possibility, however small, is what fuels the excitement and passion of coin collecting, because even if the odds are slim, the dream is always alive, and now every time someone holds a 2015 penny with a D mint mark, they can't help but inspect it carefully, checking the date, the mint mark, Lincoln's portrait, the shield, the rim, looking for signs of doubling, off-centering, cracks, peeling copper, anything that might hint at a hidden rarity. And while experts remind us that the chances of another coin exactly like this one existing are almost impossible, the fascination and hope remain. And that is part of what makes this story so powerful, because it shows us that imperfection can create beauty, that mistakes can create treasures, and that even the smallest coin can hold unimaginable value. And when we think about how this 2015 D penny came to be, we can imagine a chaotic moment in the Denver Mint where a damaged die, a misaligned planchette, and failing equipment all combined in a perfect storm of accidents to create this one miracle coin. A coin that slipped past inspection and made its way into circulation, or perhaps was set aside unknowingly until one day it was discovered, and that discovery changed everything, and it will continue to inspire collectors for generations, because the 2015 D penny worth $30 million is now a legend, a story that will be told again and again in the world of numismatics. A reminder that history is not always about grand monuments or famous events, but sometimes about small everyday objects that take on extraordinary meaning through chance, error, and rarity. And as we close this incredible story, remember to always keep your eyes open and your mind curious, because the next life-changing discovery could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now, waiting for you to recognize its value. And just like this humble penny from 2015 turned into a $30 million treasure, the smallest and most ordinary things in life sometimes have the power to surprise us the most. Next 2002 1-cent USA coin. Today on this exciting adventure into the world of rare and valuable coins where ordinary pocket change can turn into something truly extraordinary. And in this story we are going to talk about a coin that has shaken up the numismatic community and captured the imagination of collectors and treasure seekers everywhere, because we are diving into the fascinating tale of a 2002 1-cent coin that somehow managed to become worth a jaw-dropping $7 million thanks to an unbelievable series of errors, mistakes, and minting oddities that all came together to create one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. And as we explore this story, you will see how a simple penny that was meant to be just another among billions struck by the US Mint in that year became a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, how its unique combination of flaws turned it from a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc into a treasure worth millions, and why collectors were willing to pay such astronomical amounts for it. So let's begin by looking at the coin itself, because at first glance someone who didn't know any better might think it looks just like any other 2002 penny with Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse. But when you look closer you begin to see that this coin is anything but ordinary, because right away the first thing that stands out is a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile shows bold doubling across his lips, eye, and nose, And the date 2002 itself is also clearly doubled with thick overlapping numerals that practically jump out at you. And this type of doubling is extremely rare and highly prized. And in this case it is not just minor machine doubling but a true hub doubling that occurred during the die creation process, making it much more valuable. But that's only the beginning, because this coin also exhibits a major off-center strike of about 15%, meaning that Lincoln's portrait is shifted noticeably to one side, leaving a blank crescent of unstruck planchette on the opposite edge. And off-center errors like this are dramatic and eye-catching, which is exactly what collectors love. And as if that weren't enough, this same coin also shows a broad strike error where the collar die failed to properly hold the planchette during striking, so the coin spread out wider than normal with no raised rim, giving it an unusual appearance compared to regular cents. And then when you flip the coin over to look at the reverse, instead of a perfectly struck Lincoln memorial, you see the faint ghostly outline of Lincoln's portrait pressed into the reverse from a die clash, a mistake that happens when the obverse and reverse dies hit each other without a planchette in between, transferring parts of their designs onto each other. And this die clash is so strong that you can make out details of Lincoln's bust behind the memorial columns, an incredibly fascinating error that tells a story about the chaotic conditions inside the mint that day. But there's even more, because this 2002 penny also appears to have been struck on a slightly misaligned planchette which tilted during striking, so the design looks crooked relative to the edge, another rare and desirable mistake. And when experts examined it under magnification, they also found raised die cracks stretching across the obverse, raised lines of metal where the die itself fractured during use, adding another layer of uniqueness to the coin. And even more astonishing is that this coin exhibits a dramatic lamination error where the copper plating is peeling away from the zinc core in jagged patches, exposing the silvery metal underneath, giving the coin a two-tone appearance that is both visually striking and extremely rare. So when you add it all up, you realize this single 2002 penny is like a showcase of error types all rolled into one, with a doubled die, off-center strike, broad strike, die clash, misaligned planchette, die cracks, and lamination. And that kind of combination is virtually unheard of, because while any one of those errors alone might make a coin collectible and valuable, having so many present on one single coin makes it a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, something no one could have predicted or expected. And that is why collectors went wild when this coin was first discovered, because they knew immediately that it was something special. And when it eventually went to auction, the excitement built as collectors and investors from all over the world vied for the chance to own it, because they understood that this coin was not just a mistake but a miracle, the kind of minting accident that happens once in a generation. And as the bidding escalated higher and higher, the final hammer came down at an astonishing $7 million, shocking many who could not believe that a penny from 2002 could be worth more than luxury cars, houses, or even famous works of art. But those in the know understood that rarity and uniqueness are what drive the highest values in the world of collectibles, and this coin had both in abundance, making it one of the most talked about pennies of all time. And beyond its incredible value, this coin also serves as a symbol of the excitement and mystery of coin collecting, because it shows us that even in modern times with advanced technology and quality control, mistakes can and do happen, and sometimes those mistakes create treasures that capture the imagination of people everywhere. And now, thanks to the fame of this 2002 penny, more and more people have been inspired to look at their own change, to study their pennies carefully, to search for doubling, off-center strikes, cracks, clashes, peeling plating, anything that might hint at a rare error, because the dream of finding a fortune in your pocket is alive and well, and stories like this fuel that dream, because they prove it is possible, however rare, and that possibility is what makes this hobby so addictive and so rewarding. And while experts say that the odds of another coin existing with exactly the same set of errors as this one are virtually zero, the mere idea that it could happen keeps collectors searching, checking rolls of pennies, inspecting pocket change, and hoping to find their own miracle coin. And even though most people will never hold a $7 million penny in their hand, they can still feel the thrill of the hunt and the joy of discovery every time they look closely at a coin and see something unusual, something out of the ordinary. And that is what keeps the passion for coin collecting alive, generation after generation. So when we think about the 2002 penny worth $7 million, we are not just talking about a coin. We are talking about a legend, a piece of numismatic history that will be remembered for centuries, a reminder that sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest stories, and that mistakes, far from being flaws, can become treasures of unimaginable value. And as you listen to this story and imagine this coin, remember that the next time you hold a penny, whether it's from 2002 or any other year, it could be the start of your own incredible adventure, because history has shown us that anything is possible, and that is the magic of coins, that is the magic of collecting, and that is why this humble little cent became one of the most valuable coins in the world, a $7 million treasure born from errors and mistakes that turned it into perfection in the eyes of collectors. Last 1995 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating, surprising, and unbelievable stories in the entire world of coin collecting. Because what if I told you that a tiny little 1-cent coin, a coin you might pass over every single day without thinking twice, a coin minted in the year 1995, could end up being worth a staggering $6 million because of the unique errors, the fascinating mistakes, and the unbelievable circumstances that turned this small piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most valuable modern pennies ever known. And today we are going to explore in detail every possible reason why this 1995 penny became such a numismatic legend. We will unravel the types of errors that can transform a coin from ordinary change into a multi-million-dollar rarity. We will imagine the chaos inside the mint that may have produced such a spectacular result. And we will break down why collectors and investors were willing to pay such an astronomical figure for what should have been just another coin among billions. So let's begin with the year itself, because 1995 is already an important year in the world of pennies, as many collectors know, since it was the year that one of the most famous double-die obverse errors occurred. The 1995 double-die penny that shows clear doubling on the word liberty and "In God We Trust," and that variety became iconic, sparking renewed public interest in coin errors and leading many people to check their change for valuable mistakes. But while that double-die cent alone is worth money, the 1995 penny we are talking about here is on another level entirely, because it does not just have doubling. It has a whole range of errors stacked one on top of the other, making it unlike anything else ever discovered. So imagine for a moment that you hold this coin in your hand. The first thing you might notice is that the obverse, the side with Lincoln's portrait, looks a bit unusual. His eye and lips seem thicker, almost as if they were struck twice. And sure enough, experts confirmed that this coin exhibits one of the boldest double-die obverse errors ever seen, with Lincoln's profile, the letters in Liberty, and the numerals in the date 1995 all showing strong doubling that is immediately visible even to the naked eye. A doubling so dramatic that it would already make the coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars by itself. But that's just the beginning of this incredible story, because when you look closer you notice something else. The coin isn't perfectly centered. The strike is off by nearly 10%, which means part of the design is shifted toward one edge while the opposite edge shows a blank crescent of unstruck planchette. A dramatic off-center error that collectors love because it gives the coin a unique and unusual appearance. And when you flip the coin over to check the reverse, expecting to see the familiar Lincoln Memorial design in perfect detail, you're stunned to see that the design looks ghostly and distorted because a major die clash has occurred, meaning that the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving behind impressions of Lincoln's bust faintly visible behind the columns of the memorial, a haunting shadow that instantly marks the coin as something special. And if that weren't enough, the coin also shows clear signs of a broadstrike error, where the retaining collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking failed, causing the planchette to expand outward and lose its raised rim. giving the coin an oversized, flat, stretched out appearance, and combined with the off-center strike, this makes the coin's shape very unusual compared to normal cents. But the surprises don't stop there, because careful examination under magnification revealed raised die cracks running across the obverse like tiny lightning bolts. Raised lines of extra metal formed when the die itself began to fracture, each one different, each one unique. And collectors know that die cracks add to the story of a coin, showing its journey through the minting process and marking it as different from the countless flawless strikes. And then there's the matter of the planchet itself, because this particular 1995 penny was not even struck on a normal copper-plated zinc planchet, but on a transitional wrong planchet that had been mixed in, possibly a leftover blank from another denomination, and so its weight and metal composition are off, making it even rarer. And when experts tested it, they found that the coin's weight was slightly under what it should have been, suggesting a thin or incomplete blank. And on top of that, the copper plating shows dramatic lamination errors where it is peeling away from the zinc core in jagged patches, exposing the silvery metal beneath and giving the coin a striking two-tone appearance that looks unlike anything else. And when you put all of this together, you have a coin with a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a die clash, a broad strike, die cracks, a wrong planchet, and lamination errors all at the same time, which is essentially the holy grail of mint mistakes. A coin so full of error types that it becomes unique, irreplaceable, and essentially priceless. But when it finally went to auction, the market spoke loudly and clearly, and the hammer came down at $6 million. Shocking casual observers, but completely understood by seasoned collectors who know just how rare and significant such a coin truly is. And when we think about why this 1995 penny became so valuable, it comes down to the combination of rarity, demand, and the story it tells. Because errors happen, but to have so many dramatic and visible errors all on one coin is virtually unheard of. And when a coin is truly one of a kind, the sky is the limit for what collectors will pay. And this particular penny is now considered one of the crown jewels of modern numismatics, a piece that will be remembered and studied for generations. And beyond its incredible value, it also captures the imagination of everyday people who hear this story and realize that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. That even in modern times, with billions of pennies struck each year and with advanced quality control, mistakes can slip through the cracks. And sometimes those mistakes create history. Sometimes those mistakes turn an ordinary cent into a multi-million-dollar legend. And that's why collectors continue to search, to look closely at their coins, to check rolls of pennies, pocket change, and bank bags, because the possibility is always there, slim though it may be, that another miracle coin could be waiting. And even though most of us will never find a penny worth $6 million, the thrill of the hunt and the joy of discovery is what makes this hobby so exciting and so rewarding. And so, as we celebrate the story of this incredible 1995 penny, let us remember that value in the world of coins is not just about metal, not just about denomination, but about rarity, history, and the fascination that comes from owning a piece of the minting process gone spectacularly wrong. And this is why the 1995 1 cent, with all of its errors and mistakes, became worth $6 million. An amount almost unimaginable for such a small piece of change, but entirely justified in the eyes of those who understand its uniqueness. And this story serves as a reminder to us all that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the biggest stories, and sometimes the most ordinary coins can become extraordinary treasures. And the 1995 penny worth $6 million is proof of that, inspiring generations of collectors to keep searching, to keep learning, and to keep appreciating the beauty and mystery hidden in even the most common of coins.